What is the real nature of language? This is what all of these fine theories leave out. It's what mine leaves out. It's what Jose's leaves out. It's that, what is this phenomenon called language, where by making little mouth noises, we coax roughly congruent notions into each other's brains and then gabble joyfully over this achievement, Reality is not made of electrons or quarks or any of these things. It is clearly made of language. And all of these abstractions, the faceless myths that were mentioned this morning, are totally naive about language. They just view it like a fish views water. It's good to speak clearly, that's important. But other than that, they haven't a word to say about the epistemic basis of language. Science is most guilty of this because science is a very old institution. Consequently, its most fundamental assumptions were carried out in the atmosphere of greatest epistemological naivete. Things like that the universe is knowable at all. Things like that induction is a good way to think. Induction is when you say, well, if it happened 10 times, it'll probably happen the 11th time. Probably. There's a loaded word that science is very big on. So the real revolution is to come, I think, in language. And the way in which psychedelics and feminism and cybernetics all come together is that we each need to carry out a very basic analysis of what we think about language and what we think it is and what we think it does. Ralph Metzner and I have been playing with the idea that there is hardwired into the human brain a kind of language that is older than agreed-upon dictionaries, that is, in fact, to hear it is to understand it. But the problem is, the only thing it can convey are emotions. But the emotions that it can convey are so finely graded and so rich in their adumbrations and resonances that it's like a form of magic. And we call this glossolalia and classify it as a subpsychotic or near psychotic phenomenon, brain origin uncertain, cultural use uncertain, so forth and so on. Ralph and I even toyed with the notion of holding weekends where we would insist that every rationally apprehendable utterance be followed by an utterance which was not rationally apprehendable. The non-rationally apprehendable utterance would anchor you in the emotional gestalt of the moment, and that would be like the carrier way. Would you do it? I thought you'd never asked. Estili hiet wakwa waktikapidin et mizedgit gen wakwa derektan. Edigim hengbe kwaktin e tijzvi What is being conveyed once you get used to it is the anchoring and the gestaltum of the emotional moment. You discover these things on psychedelics, but they are clearly subject to periodization, in other words, to being learned, that you can lay down these pathways in the brain, and it's marvelous.
I think this is fundamental language learning anyway. This is how the child learns, and how you learn in your foreign country when you don't study from a book. You understand long before you speak.
That's right.
You don't know what's being said.
That's right.
You come from.
You can pick it up.
And the child is always spoken in terms in a way, but it's verbal.
So we need to learn to be able to create these linguistic constructs which are not meaning-tied, but which communicate. One of the most interesting things about psilocybin is that on high doses, that a synesthesia takes place, where when you articulate in this emotional glossolalia, you actually can condense objects which are beheld. In other words, you take control of the mechanism of the hallucinations, and you create these toy-like, jewel-like, self-transforming, grammatical complexes. You are speaking some kind of translinguistic language which is beheld rather than heard. And you know, Philo Judaeus talked about the more perfect logos, and he said the more perfect logos will be beheld rather than heard, but it will pass from being heard to being beheld without ever crossing over a discernible barrier of transition. And I've experienced this, and I think other people have, where you hear the glossolalia-like wave, and it comes closer and closer, and then at a certain point it is manifest as a topology. And I think many of the psychedelics communicate in these visual languages. After taking ayahuasca, you know, and sitting with these people in darkened huts in the Amazon, after hours and hours of it, your eyes are just bugging out of your head. You just have spent hours looking and looking and looking and drinking in this visual data. And this is how really dense information is conveyed, not a linear string of little mouth noises where the brain rushes to the conventionalized dictionary and then grimly reconstructs the intention provided nothing too finely sculpted was intended. And I think, you know, what's happening with the monitoring of brain states, Ralph Abraham was here this morning as the director of the Visual Mathematics Project at Santa Cruz. Glossolalia, language, drugs, cybernetics, all of these things are the means to transform the human self-image. It's almost impossible to imagine what society would be like where this glossolalia held sway equal with speech. I think the pre-Celtic people, the Celts of Ireland, may have been into this because they rarely spoke without a pun, and you were expected to pun on multiple levels. And the pun, far from being trivial, is a step toward this hyperdimensional linguistic construct. It's almost like a fractal. A pun is a word with 1.5 dimensions or more in it, and it resonates. This historical, this vision that I conveyed this morning of the co-presence of resonant epochs in time can only be conveyed if someone could transform their language in such a way that it was implicit that this was happening and we were all noticing it and experiencing it the way we are noticing and experiencing the greenness of this tree, the fall of the sunlight through the leaves. We could also be experiencing the ebb and flow of the middle of Mesopotamian empires and Hellenistic religions.